Inside Foos presents FoosTalk Live.
One of the things that I think somebody had mentioned to me that they were curious about was my favorite movie. And I think this is a no-brainer, so hopefully everybody will agree with me. I've watched this movie many times. It's actually a trilogy, and I could watch it again today and still make me laugh. It's the Austin Powers series. I think the world would do us some good right now with everybody stressed out that we all just watch all three of those.
It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Inside Foos, it's the 94th episode of FoosTalk Live. Brought to you by InsideFoos.com. Offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball safety accessory. Go to Protecto-Flex.com. And brought to you by Rodlock. Practice more, reach less. The best practice tool in foosball. Visit rod-lock.com. Brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items and foosball apparel of all kinds. Visit 518prints.com. Brought to you by Foosballers the Movie. This Joe Hessling, a foosball documentary, now available as a worldwide download at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com. And brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Make a donation today at foosballclubsusa.com. Well, hey there, it's Tom Robinson. Welcome to episode 94 of FoosTalk Live. By the way, we have an up-to-the-minute exclusive report with Mark Torres and the owner of Valley-Dynamo-Kelye Stites from the great state of Texas coming up this evening, and we want you to stick around for that. But, of course, conversation about foosball is always better when you have someone to share it with, which would be the greatest play-by-play announcer in the sport of foosball. Welcome back, Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, baby. I love Austin Powers as well. What a great set of movies, and it is great to be back after a couple of weeks off. Had my birthday last week, and took a little time off to relax, if you will.
Okay.
But we have a lot going on tonight, Tom Robinson.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary because all of this came down for us probably within the last 48 hours. So we're very excited. And of course, we have a really special guest, a young Colorado foosball player from back in the day.
I don't know how young he is anymore, but he certainly was then.
Yes.
And, it was Grant Nelson, really one of the great up and coming players of the late 1990s and into the early 2000s, a guy that we looked at as maybe, one of the next big things. And so we'll talk with Grant. Of course, next week, the tour kickoff in Kentucky taking place. Thunderdome now only 4 weeks away. And boy, that filled up quickly, didn't it? We'll talk with Mark about that as well. But as you said, big time news tonight coming from Kelye Stites in an interview with our intrepid reporter, Mark Torres. Looking forward to that.
I love that intrepid reporter. I consider him, of course, as well as a teen idol. And, he's also a karaoke master. And an amateur world title holder in foosball. Mark, are you with us tonight?
I'm here, fellas, and we've arrived. We're big time now.
Is it official? It is official.
It's official.
We've been big time forever.
Yeah,
we've been big time forever.
Absolutely.
I do want to make sure that I acknowledge some incredible sponsors that have come on board in the last couple of weeks for the Thunderdome event. I want to make sure I do this because it's my commitment to do it. We're starting to splash them on all of our assets that go out to promote the event. So Foos Gadgets, Foos Fit, Rod Locks, Modern Foosball, and Trophy Smack.
Ooh.
All five of these these five of these entities have come on board and to support the Thunderdome event. You guys have heard about this event. You're going to hear a lot more about it. It is February 18th to the 20th in Pompano Beach, Florida. It is the most prestigious and most lucrative non-pro event that we can tell since maybe 1977.
Wow.
That's how far back you have to go to find another event. And it has caught the imagination of the foosball community. We had 31 teams for a long time because we had closed at 32 teams, and we had a bunch of people on the wait list and trying to figure out who was going to play with who. And we finally got our 32nd team tonight. It was going to happen. But the remarkable thing is, before we move forward with the rest of the show, I just one more shout out about the Thunderdome. People wondered if people were going to want to play a new format, a Swiss system style event. And they wondered because we've been doing things for so long, for so many decades, what the stomach was like or the fortitude was like to play a high stakes event if you're not a pro player. And we got to 31 teams in 4 days. And it only took this long to get to the 32nd team because people didn't know who was going to play with who. We closed a bracket, basically a $20,000 bracket, pre-registered, prepaid in like a week.
Wow.
So anyway, pretty exciting.
Great work by you. You want to thank all these other people, but great work by you, Mark Torres, on designing and putting this together and working with the South Florida Foosball Club, of course, to really create what we think may be a glimpse into the future of foosball, certainly.
Yes.
And giving all these non-pro players a chance to really experience, like you say, the pressure of playing for big money. Where every ball matters, every game, every match, everything matters so much, and it's going to be so much fun. Of course, we're going to have the A team down there to cover it. We're all looking forward to getting a little Florida sunshine and some great foosball down in Pompano Beach.
South Florida Foosball Club. It couldn't have happened without them, and I want to stay away from like being the centerpiece of this thing. I pulled a lot of strings, and I did a lot of architecture with the South Florida Foosball Club. Has to be recognized for all the behind-the-scenes work they're doing.
Yep. Tommy and Luke and company, they do such a great job of promoting the sport down in the south side or the south end of the Sunshine State, no doubt about it.
And of course, one of the essential ingredients when it comes to great foosball, but also a great episode of FoosTalk Live, would of course be our official foodie and food photog out of Ventura, California. Adam Gilson, are you with us?
I am, and I'm actually changing all of the stuff on my resume to make sure that it says food photog on it.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to spell that. It sounds French. Yeah. I'm excited.
I see a lot of your food photos up there on Facebook these days.
On Facebook, yeah. My interface with humanity at this point is basically Facebook because my 5-year-old, I don't really go out much. So I just want everybody to know what it is that I'm cooking. Yeah. And Facebook is the place for me.
What's cooking, right? That's every time.
By the way, Jim, I think with a little bit more warm-up time, you probably could have done a better Austin Powers.
Oh, no, I could have. I for sure I could have. And I will next time.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Would you like to take over and do it? Use one of his other catchphrases, perhaps?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not going to.
I'm talking about you.
No, me? Oh, no. I can't do one of those accents. It's terrible. I'm terrible at that, but anyways, just I want to take control of the show again.
Yeah, can you take control of the show for Christ's sake?
Just real quick, let me just
crying out loud. Sorry for crying out loud.
We just listen. So I woke up this morning, right? I'm thinking, oh boy, it's FoosTalk Live. We're going to be on. We're doing this is when we do our show. I was excited about that because for the last month and a half or two, it's been dominated by our top 50 greatest players rollout that we had. But then this morning, I woke up. And I started writing down a little bit of notes here and there for what it is that we're doing, what's in foosball land this year. And, of course, there's the Thunderdome. But, as I started writing down this and that and the other thing, looking forward for this year, I got really excited because it's like there's a whole year of foosball and there's a whole lot of foosball tournaments that are happening just in the next 3 or 4 months. So it's hard not to feel like, we're kind of waking up to this new dawn of foosball post-COVID. I mean, it's still COVID happening, right? But, I feel like, I don't know. It's hard for me to explain because I'm a huge foosball nerd and I'm always really excited about it all the time. But where it just feels like there's something in the air, and I think the rest of it, we've been talking about this. There's definitely something in the air.
Oh no!
Yeah, and you've come to the right place because tonight's top 5 is things to watch for coming up here in 2022. Yeah. So you're going to get a chance to voice some of those things and be excited about this upcoming year, as we all are. For sure.
I don't know if you're aware of this, Jim, but when you were not here last week, we basically blew up everything when it comes to our normal features, including, quenching our thirst.
Yeah.
What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA.
So now that you're back, you've celebrated another birthday, another trip around the sun. What are you drinking?
Well, I wanted to stay in my home state tonight, and I was watching ESPN earlier today, and the X Games are taking place, the Winter X Games. It's a big deal, with the Winter Olympics coming up here in a couple of weeks. They're qualifying people to go there, and of course, all the best half pipers and et cetera are competing up in Aspen this weekend. In fact, it's on right now. Continue to listen to us, folks, but put your TV on mute, and you can watch it as well. The Winter X Games taking place in beautiful Aspen, Colorado, and it is a beautiful place. So I went down to my local establishment and picked up from the Aspen Brewing Company Independence Pass IPA. 7% ABV. It's a classic IPA malt bill that boasts a touch of crystal malt to provide the perfect backbone for high doses of modern American hops. It's named in honor of Aspen's east boundary and 12,090 foot high elevation. This elevation, Independence Pass, but it's at 12,095 feet. And really, I've been across Independence Pass. It's a 1.5 lane dirt road. Really, you look down about 7,000 feet. It's quite something. But I'm going to taste the beer.
Well, I'd be interested to know whether or not there's an opportunity or a risk of altitude sickness when you drink that IPA.
Well, there certainly could be if you're not accustomed to it. And, of course, I live at about 7,000 feet. So going up a little bit to Aspen, no big deal. And the beer is very good, as so many of these Colorado Mountain IPAs are.
Yeah.
So the Independence Pass IPA from the Aspen Brewing Company in beautiful Aspen, Colorado.
That sounds good.
Is half pipers a word? I don't think that means what you think it means. Half pipers? Anyway.
Thanks, Mark. So, Adam, what pray tell are you consuming?
Well, actually, I did not have an IPA tonight. I went a little bit out of the box because in celebration of today, which was a little bit warmer than normal for a Southern California day.
Okay.
So it had me thinking about barbecue and smoking. I love smoking meats. So I went out in my backyard this morning and prepped my
meat smoker.
Yeah, meat smoker. That's juvenile, Mark. But anyways, I oiled down my
what?
No, you have to
Dude,
oil the
keep it
metal.
clean.
I am. This is PG. I'm just telling you. I've got my Texas offset smoker, which is, my opinion, the only way to smoke meat. And I've got my trusty Weber kettle. So I got those all nice and ready to go. And I also have my chopped a bunch of hickory and post oak wood. But here's the big point. The big point is my favorite thing to drink when I'm barbecuing is I love a michelada. I love the spiciness. I love the little bit of vinegariness. I love it. So yes, I've got a Modelo Especial is the beer, but I have this really great michelada mixer that I found at Vons or Safeway, or I think maybe Kroger for most people. I don't sure, but it's delicious because you get this beginning hit of vinegar and it settles into this nice smoky chipotle, and it is refreshing, and I love it, and I'm just happy to be drinking it.
Okay, meat smoker with your lubricants. Can we move forward?
Don't destroy everything that I love, Mark.
I just destroyed it all.
He's yucking your yum.
Anyways, tell us about your LaCroix.
Wait, it's Tom's turn. That's why I bore you to death.
I mean,
Tom,
I probably should preface this by saying that this is not PG rated tonight, but the IPA that I have consuming is actually coming from my good buddies at Old Saratoga Mercantile. These guys got such eclectic taste, and tonight it's no exception. Something called Sexual Jams IPA. And Sexual Jams comes to us from Brick City Brewing, New York City, 8% quadruple dry hopped with Mosaic, Vic Secret, which I don't know if that's short for Victoria's Secret, and Galaxy, but it is 8%.
Now Vic is the brewmaster there at Brick City Brewing.
I see.
Good old Vic.
Brick City Brewing.
Vic, hey Vic. Yo, let me try this out here. Sexual Jams.
What? I get uncomfortable sometimes during this.
I've been uncomfortable for the last 5 minutes. It's been very uncomfortable in here.
Yeah. Let me tell you my story, which is so PG. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I usually have a LaCroix, but I asked for coffee. Whatever. And then I asked for coffee, and then my kids were scooping ice cream out. So I went, and I scooped vanilla and strawberry ice cream into a cup, and then I poured my coffee over it, and I put whipped cream on it. And I'm drinking coffee with vanilla ice cream in it.
Wow.
That's what real men do.
Then. Well,
right?
real men, he says. Real men in Chicago.
Ready to cheers, dude.
Yeah, cheers. Well, yeah, we do have an honor group of the week. The sponsors for FoosTalk Live, they've been with us for quite some time. Of course, Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball throughout school systems across the USA, founded by John O'Brien. And we want to make a special toast to John. He revealed this week publicly that he's suffering from cancer. But we know he's got this. And John, we got your back. So
we sure do. The entire foosball community has John O'Brien's back because he's had their back for the last 6-8 years.
Yep.
And he's had our back. And so when we heard this, of course, we were saddened, but we know what a fighter John is and what kind of support he has from the community. And so, John, if you are listening, just know that we love you and look forward to many more years of doing foosball with you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cheers to John O'Brien.
To John O'Brien and all the hard work. And of course, he's really built this future that we're looking at now when it comes to foosball. What an amazing guy.
Yep. Here's to you, John.
Well, I mean, I just it's so difficult to understand now how much has changed even in a year because of COVID, of course, but all the things that have now transpired since then. But you know what? We're just about to hear some really interesting changes too when it comes to foosball in general. This 2022 is going to be extraordinary. So we're looking forward to hearing all about it, and we're gonna be bringing it to you as much and as quickly and as on top of things as we can right here at FoosTalk Live. But cheers to that as well.
Yep.
So, guys, let's take a look back in time when things were different and the world seemed smaller.
With great moments in foosball history, this is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Barber along the wall looking to clear it. It bounces and then rolls to the 5 of Terry Moore. Terry's pass attempt blocked away by Mares. Barber couldn't hold it in. Would have been a good save if he had of. It caroms right to the 3 out of Terry Moore, who now looks for the lead. Moore strokes it again to that far side. It's 5-4, and it's now championship point for Moore and Loffredo.
Yeah, are you ready? Come on.
5-4 lead. 10 games of exciting foosball here in this open doubles final as Robert Mares puts it into play. Mares along the wall can't hold on to it. Loffredo with a rebound. It is championship. Loffredo with a rebound. It is championship point for Moore and Loffredo. Pass attempt. Loffredo just looking to clear the zone. Does just that. Hesitation wall past Terry Moore. Able to grab it. And Terry Moore now will set it up looking for the championship. On to the push side the last 2 times. Gonna look at it again. And he does. Terry Moore, Todd Loffredo defeat Robert Mares and Dan Barber in a classic open doubles final. And they are the 2009 Tour Kickoff Open Doubles titleists. And what a great couple of sets. What a great match. And what great play from both Robert Mares and Dan Barber. But going up against the 2 Hall of Famers, it just wasn't quite enough.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Yet another thrilling moment from the past. So, Jim, how often did that happen with Todd and Terry? What?
Well, the reason I chose this tonight, 3 different reasons, basically. 2 big ones. Number one, of course, the tour kickoff taking place next weekend in Kentucky at that same hotel that we were at back in 2009. And so I just sort of wanted to illuminate that fact that the first pretty big tournament of the year is taking place, there at the Clarion Inn in Kentucky. The other thing too, we did this top 50 list, right? And went over all the greatest players in the history of the sport. Terry Moore, I think, landed, I believe, at number 7, if I want to recall correctly. This win here, he played with Todd Loffredo, and this was a tournament. First of all, the other interesting thing about this was that tournament was played on Warrior. You were listening to a Warrior table. There was a period of time there, 2008 through the end of 2009, where Mary Moore and IFP basically ran their tour on the Warrior table. That seems bizarre, and the history, of course, since then really makes it extra bizarre. But that was played on Warrior. The other thing that was interesting is at that tournament that weekend, Ryan Moore was there, Tony Spredeman, Billy Pappas, obviously Todd Loffredo, Terry Moore, Robert Mares, Tommy Atkinson. I mean, it was a star-studded event. Mares and Barber get to the final. But the most interesting thing for me, Terry Moore, who first came up in 1992, retired at the end of that year. That was the last win of Terry Moore's career. 2009 tour kickoff in Kentucky when he and Todd won it in a very tough field and beat a red-hot Robert Mares and Dan Barber. You heard it went 2 full sets, and I think they beat him 6-4 in the 5th game of the second set. But it was his very last win in what was really, and the more we looked at his career during the course of putting together this list, the more we were impressed with what a great, great player Terry Moore was.
Yeah, what an extraordinary time. Of course, 2009, things were not looking good generally for the sport as things were starting to fall off a bit. But what a great moment nonetheless. Wow, very cool. Well, we're looking forward to 2022, guys. I know that tonight, the top 5, we're celebrating the top 5 things to look forward to in 2022. Would you be ready to do this?
Well, we better be since we're about to introduce the segment. But yeah, I think we are. I think we spent all of last year, really detailing what was going on throughout the course of last year and how things were evolving and changing. And I think Adam, I think you'd agree as we look forward to 2022, it's time to really look at what could be a transcendent year in foosball, a year that really all of us have an opportunity to make some changes for the good and really take the sport where we want it to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it really comes down to that concept of an inflection point. Like this is, I think people are coming out of the pandemic. We're moving forward. Things are maybe looking a little bit better. But as far as foosball is concerned, I feel like, and I'm sure we're going to cover this in our top 5. But I feel like there's some other venues or avenues that are starting to open up for us.
Mm-hmm. Well said. So, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's shall.
Time once again for the FoosTalk Live Top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 5.
So to lead into that, what I was just talking about in our little intro there is, and this would be much higher if I hadn't been talking about it so much in the last 2 months, a month and a half. But the Thunderdome tournament coming up next month in South Florida, this is going to be an inflection point. It is going to be a big changing moment in foosball for a lot of different reasons. Yes, it's the money. Yes, it's looking at the sponsorships. Yes, it's a lot of these things. But one of the big things that it's going to be is this introduction, a highly covered introduction to the United States foosball players, what the Swiss format can be, of what an event like that can give to the players. It does not take away; it gives, and I can tell you that this is going to be something. Without trying to oversell it, because I know it sounds like I'm just overselling it, but I'm not, because I can just know, I can feel it in my bones. This is going to be different. So the Thunderdome tournament, not only just that, but, and this is something we've talked about a lot, how do we think outside of the box for foosball as it relates to the American tour? What can we do that's different that has not been done, banging your head against the wall over and over again for decades now? This, I believe, is going to be, what do they call it? The breadcrumb trail towards maybe, well, no, wait, that led to that house where they ate the kids. Well, anyways, maybe that's a different story. Okay, well, this would be something nice. Okay, how about that? Something nice. Jim.
Should I take it from there?
Do I go, or how does this?
I don't know what's going on. You're here. You're never here.
Go for it, and that'll give me a chance to respond to both of you before I get on. Yeah, go, Mark.
Yeah, all right.
I forgot Mark was here.
So we you know what? To hell with you guys. We talked about this top 5 minutes ago, and the first thing that came to my head was that we talk about the top 5 things to look forward to in foosball, and if this thing isn't at least 5 on everybody's list, it should be, because you're a moron. And the number 5 thing for me, I'm surprised it's this low on the list. The number 5 thing for me in foosball this year is me. I'm the number 5 thing, for crying out loud. I mean, look at me. It's crazy. So here's the thing about me in foosball. I'm very, very transient, and I have no loyalty, and I have commitment issues but I decided to stick around for another year. I could like vanish. Everybody knows me. Adam knows me well enough. Jim, you know me. I could just like drop out. And believe me, there are times it occurred to me, but I'm sticking around for another year. And I don't play around. When I'm around foosball, I give it everything and I focus and I commit. I'm staying for at least another year. And so everyone should be looking forward to me for the next year in foosball.
That is great news. We promised you breaking news, folks. There it is.
Close
That's
it down.
exciting. That's very, very exciting news,
You're
Mark.
welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. It really is. And of course, Mark, instrumental, along with the South Florida Foosball Club, in presenting the event that it made Adam's top 5. And I'm excited, too, about it, Adam. This is something brand new. It's something we've really never experienced before. We're going to give wall-to-wall coverage. There's going to be interviews on Facebook Live, and every potential outlet for Inside Foos during the course of that weekend to really bring you these personalities, right? These are not the big stars. It isn't Ryan Moore and Tony Spreadman. These are individuals who you may have heard of and seen. And in some cases, in fact, there's a Hall of Famer, I believe, playing a lady, right? But that's it. It really is exciting, and it is something that's going to showcase this new format and something that we've been talking about on this show for quite a while. And so we are looking forward to that. For me, number 5, I'm looking forward to what innovations are we going to see, and obviously that's one of them. But what is the next big thing? Over the course of the history of foosball, obviously we talked about Terry Moore really bringing the snake shot into popular use and really winning with it. Although people had shot it before him, he was really the guy that took it to the next level. Then along came the walking snake, which I think we can credit for the most part Tony Spreadman with inventing and at least popularizing. The use of the high lane pass, all these different tactics now that are being used that we didn't see back in the 1990s. And so I'm looking forward to what's coming next. Where are these great artists, these great foosball scientists? Where are they going to take the game next? What's next in terms of on the table play? Todd Loffredo a few years ago had that little left-handed passing series, little chip bank series that he would use with a left hand, and it cleared the zone like 90% of the time, or it would be a pass to his 3-rod. And it was innovative. It was successful. What's going to be next? These players are always looking for the next thing that they can do that's going to elevate their game and move them forward among the ranks. So for me, one of the other things, maybe one thing I'd like to see more of would be the 2 to the 5 in doubles. We've seen it a little bit. I always get kind of a little rush when I see it. I think that's just great play there, great teamwork. These guys got to be on the same wavelength in order to do it, but it's really good high percentage foosball. So for me, number 5, innovations. What's coming next as far as the actual play goes on the table?
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 4.
So Jim mentioned this last in one of our top 5s before we started the top 50 greatest players list. So this early December, late November. But what is 2022 going to bring was one of the things he was talking about. But mostly last year we saw an upswell, just an amazing amount of foosball players at these tournaments in the midst of a pandemic. And it was heartening. It was something that made me feel good to see. It was like I don't know, seeing one of your favorite characters from a movie or book that you love, just rallying around, all the players just coming back and just being like, screw this, we're going to do what we do because this is what's important to us. And my question is, what is that going to be looking like this year as we go into it? I don't know. Was it just a blip? Was it just a need that needed to be filled? I don't know. But for me, number 4 is going to be looking at the attendance of the Hall of Fame Classic. To me, that's kind of the litmus test. It's one of the first big. I think it is the first big tournament at the beginning of each year. I know there's TKO coming
First
up,
major,
and that's pretty
yeah.
good too. First major.
Yeah.
And to me, that's going to be the litmus test. That's going to let us know kind of what we're going to be looking at as the year goes forward in foosball. So yeah, for me, it's a kind of a nuts and bolts thing, just looking at it that way for my number 4. But yeah, what is the attendance at the Hall of Fame going to be?
My turn?
Your turn.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there are these winds of change that are happening, and it's a unique. I mean, I've only been back in foosball for like less than 2 years. I think it's been less than 2 years. I
Yeah.
think it's right.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to exaggerate like things weren't changing before that, but there's a, and I credit it to the pandemic, by the way. If there's one thing to say about this, it's a sad irony. A lot of focus and attention and energy, including mine, frankly, got funneled back into foosball for whatever reason. And now there are things happening. My number 4 are change is happening. Things are actually changing in foosball. Fundamental change is occurring on multiple levels. And I'm not just daydreaming about it because I'm in these conversations and I'm connected to these networks of people, and it's a small community. And foosball is going to look different this year, and it's going to look radically different next year on so many levels that, frank, I'm not at liberty right now to describe the multiple levels that foosball is going to change. And it's, in my humble opinion, it's all changing for the better. And it's all been necessary for so long. And I'm just excited to be participating in it and to be close to it and see it. And I intend to stick around long enough to see it through. So number 4 for me, the winds of change in foosball.
Thank God for that. And I had you like at number 6, by the way, Mark. You would have made my top 5.
Nice.
It's funny though. Each of us kind of have our own take on this. It could be anything, right? We can go anywhere with this stuff, right? And all of us kind of went the same place here at number 4. I have written down, will there be growth after a 2021 that saw us, really come out of COVID? And we've documented some issues here at FoosTalk Live, things that needed to change. We got a little comfortable maybe last year, kind of settled in. I mean, some things changed, obviously great turnouts. A few things began to change, but then you almost sense that we were kind of getting back into some old habits again. And things do need to change. We addressed, the Thunderdome event, which is going to be run on a Swiss system. Things that need to change. Anything from the format to the way the sport is presented. Everything from dress code to how the finals area looks and how players, how they dress. Is kind of important. How you appear on television if we ever wish to get on ESPN again. Will we learn the lessons of the past? Will we learn the lessons of COVID? Will we come out of COVID an opportunity here to grow, from the fertilizer that has been these last couple of years? And I think that's what we're looking to do. And yes, we're not going to sit back on our heels and see if things change. We're going to help implement change here at FoosTalk Live and at InsideFoos, of course. And we just hope that everyone else is kind of on that same wavelength with us, and that we can all work together to push this sport again to where we think it can go. So number 4 for me is, will there be growth after a 2021 that really saw us go through some things, right? Let's look forward to it. I think all of us kind of on that same, again, wavelength. As far as looking forward, wait till next year, sort of thing. It's optimism. It's moving into this new year and a chance to really make some positive change. So that's number 4 for me.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 3.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow the fertilizer of these last few years. Jim, that's beautiful. That is nice. So here's my number 3. My number 3 is quite simple, and I've said this before in that list that you were talking about, Jim, of the things that need to change. I think of refocusing on regionals. Regionals for me is number 3. What are regionals going to be doing throughout this year in every single area that has tournaments and all these great player bases? And I say this because, yes, we need to have the big tent events. We need to have Hall of Fame and Tornado Championships and Texas State, of course. Those are all, that's something that's just mind-blowing and something that needs to be a part of foosball. But to me, the lifeblood, the beating heart of foosball that gets people to those places is having not only a good player base in a regional area, but regional tournaments. And I'm talking 5 granders, maybe 10 granders, but not much more than that celebrate the history of that region and turn it into something that is that can be proud of that region. Like the Zeke Mullins Classic that happened in the Pacific Northwest late last year is a great example. Colorado State, which started off as you could almost say a regional thing, but turned into the thing that it is doing now, especially with the King of the Ring. These are the things, the natural evolution of foosball that needs to happen, but doing that with reverence to the areas in which these places, these bastions exist, is to me incredibly important. So looking forward in 2022 to the regionals this year.
For me, we're on number 3. right?
Yeah, Mark.
Welcome back, Mark. Welcome back.
Mark, FoosTalk Live.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick with this one. The Swiss system is coming to the United States and is going to take over our foosball tournaments. I assure you this is true. I promise you this is true. We are leading the way with a Thunderdome event, and we're going to show everybody how fun it is and how efficient it is and how it changes everything. Double elimination events, we've just been doing them forever because we're used to doing them. And all it is a hot mess of waiting. And this is not to disparage or, challenge what people have been doing, but it kind of is. And some people are still going to do it, but we're going to lead the way to turn tournaments into less waiting and more competing. And we're going to lead the way in proliferating this format across the United States. And we're going to make tournaments more fun and more engaging and less fatiguing and more entertaining. And that's going to happen. The Thunderdome's a Swiss event, a high value, prestigious Swiss event. And it is the first of what is going to be the entirety, or as much of the U.S. as we can make it, evolve into the Swiss system. There are multiple reasons for this, and you'll hear about some of them later in the show. But number 3 on my list, Swiss system entering in the U.S. with us at the tip of the spear, the South Florida Foosball Club, Thunderdome, InsideFoos, and changing foosball forever.
Amen, brother. Amen. And of course, you all know my thoughts on that, so I don't have to go into them too much. And as far as what you said, Adam, regional tournaments for regional player bases, right? These are not nationally focused events. You focus on the history, tradition of a certain area, and basically you're focused on getting a regional turnout. That's how it used to be. That's how it should be. For me, I'm going to shift the attention a little bit to the pro side of things, because that's what I've always done, right? I'm a professional table soccer announcer, focusing primarily on the professional game, although not at Thunderdome. For me, you look across the board at all the top players, there's only one really interesting story for me, and that's whether Ryan Moore will be into it. And again, you mentioned a litmus test earlier on, Adam. I think if Ryan is into it, it's because he's excited about what's going on, excited about events, etc. But after an incredible performance at the Tornado Worlds, and a man who, in my opinion, is one of the top 4 or 5 greatest players of all time, will he, take that energy that he created from Tornado Championships and take it into 2022? And will he, continue to play his A game? Because when he plays his A game, there's nobody, I don't think, that's ever been better. And so it's a lot of fun to watch it. That's, for me, as a professional broadcaster, that's kind of what I'm looking at. We know what we're going to get from Tony and Todd and all these other players, Blake Robertson, etc. But what's Ryan going to bring? Is he going to be that Ryan, or is he going to be that Ryan? That's my number 3.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
How am I going to follow? Is he going to be that Ryan, or is he going to be that Ryan?
But anyway, the inflection, buddy. It's inflection.
You're right. I know. It's beautiful. Okay, number 2 is really straightforward. 2 words: World Cup. I in the last couple of years, well, not the last couple of years. We haven't had one in the last couple of years, but throughout the last 15? How long has it been going on, Jim?
2006 was the first one. So this would be 16 years. Yep.
So I was out of foosball around 2006 or 7. So I was only tangentially listening to foosball at that time. So I wasn't really paying attention. But now that I'm back into foosball, and now that I'm just interested in the global impact of our sport, not only as America exists as a powerhouse within it, but the influence that America has throughout the rest of the way that other players play the game throughout every single country, it's hard for me not to be so utterly involved and interested in knowing what's going to go on. More so than that, because they use the Swiss system there, and because it's this great amalgam of this concept of team play, country play, table play. I can't think of anything that I've ever seen that matches it. Yes, the Thunderdome is coming up, and that's going to be amazing. But there's something, just that little bit of extra pepper that's coming with looking at it on the global scale. So the World Cup for me is number 2.
Number 2 for me is the Thunderdome. I feel like I've been talking about the Thunderdome for all 4 of my numbers so far. Okay. But listen, man. So I can be really brief. I say it all the time. I'm going to be brief, and then I talk for like 9 hours. But Thunderdome is coming February 18th to the 20th, Pompano Beach, Florida. We have 5 sponsors, including a big sponsor, Trophy Smack, and we have another massive sponsor. And when I say we, I'm using the term way broadly. It's the South Florida Foosball Club has acquired another sponsor that will be discussed at a later time. I hope that's not too premature, but the Thunderdome has caught the imagination of the community and is showing so many different unique things. It's around the corner, and there are going to be still more things happening at this event that we're going to announce that are huge things. They're massive things. They're not little things. They're gigantic things that Inside Foos is collaborating on and with, and we're going to disclose all that probably within the next few shows as those things become more formative, but they are committed. They are contracted, signed, sealed, delivered, going to happen. And we'll talk about those things. I'm more excited about the Thunderdome than I could commit to describing because I can't disclose some of these things, but they are all happening. Thunderdome, my number 2. Jim?
Let's see. South Florida, held in a brewery, a block and a half from the beach. Let's see. Am I excited about it? Maybe so. And getting to commentate, of course, with you guys, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well. But no, it's going to be an amazing weekend. My number 2 is the young players, right? We saw these incredible performances last year from some players, some new players, and of course, Sam DeJohn. Can't forget about him. What kind of growth is he going to have moving forward? Is he going to stay on track? His game is extraordinary, right? And we feel like he's been around forever. And Sam still, what is he, 14, 15?
No, he's still 13. He'll be 14 in April.
13. See that? I even got ahead of it. But guys like Eric Balkos out of Minnesota, and Evan McGregor out of Texas, and Ethan Wynn out of California, these great young players. And are there going to be more? Are we going to have more of these stories moving forward? Last year was a banner year for teenage players on the Pro Tour. No question about it. I haven't seen anything like it since maybe the late 1990s with our guest tonight, Grant Nelson. But I'm looking forward to seeing the growth of these players, to seeing the new players that are being developed, these young players. It makes those of us who are well along the old foosball railroad really feel good about the future of the sport and these great young players. So number 2 for me, it's the young players.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the top 5. Number 1.
So this piggybacks a little bit off of what Jim is talking about. But let me just read you a little list of names that I wrote down. I've got Stahl, Romero, Munoz, Stelly, Smith, Marshall, DeJohn, Nguyen, McGregor, Alfaro, Loma, Graham, Arcos, Wyborg, Byrie, Balkos. That's by no means exhaustive. But to me, those are the names that have these 2 words or 3 words attached to them in 2022. Breakthrough or ceiling. Some of these players are going to have a breakthrough, and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be awesome to watch. And I'm here for it, and it's why I'm going to these tournaments to talk about it. Because to me, as much as I love foosball and talking about foosball, what I love more is just seeing people do something that works for them, that helps them do whatever they need to do in their life, and it's just a fun hobby, right? And that's what we're here for. And for me to see the breakthroughs and to see people get to those points in their life is massively important. But then the ceiling happens. Where is everybody's ceiling? What because life happens again. Other things happen again. For me, I knew what my ceiling was. It was mental health issues when I was peaking back in 2005 or 6, and that's what life is. And that's the human element. And to me, there's no differentiation between foosball and humanity. It just exists hand in hand. So for me, number 1 is going to be looking at the breakthroughs and the ceilings of these players and many others throughout this year of 2022.
Interesting. That's very good, Adam.
Like that.
That's the first time I've complimented you, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Number 1.
You're going to take it back. You're going to make it about yourself.
Never mind, it sucked. Number 1 for me is the World Cup. I can't believe I'm going to the World Cup. I missed the World Cup, the first World Cup. I was just like you, Adam. We were both falling out of foosball. We won that pro doubles on tour in 2005. And then the very next year, I was basically dropped out. And then you saw me like at Vegas once every other year to get smashed with Fernando and those guys, and I never showed up again. And then so Jim goes to the World Cup in 2006, and I'm like, there's regret. So this is it, man. I'm going to the World Cup. It's going to be awesome to be in that kind of environment with so many committed, passionate, foosball invested people of all ages and diversity, and I'm going to party with these guys, and my wife's coming. How amazing is that? I mean, so it's going to be lovely. World Cup #1, Jim.
Yeah, I've got World Cup at #1 too. You know, you mentioned 2006. It was something brand new for us when we went over there to cover that event, and it turned out to be quite simply the greatest event I think I've ever been to. 2009 to watch the USA get their first gold medal, and I've been there for several more since then. You know, for me, there isn't anything like this. 2017 in Hamburg, Germany, just incredible experience. It's an amazing finals area. Getting to be a part of that was just such a privilege and such a thrill. 2019, I get to go to Spain to cover this event. And again, you mentioned all the neat things about it, Mark, but the other thing is you have players from 45 different countries who all share a great passion, don't always share a language or a culture, but that's what makes it so special. At the end of the day, you go and you hang out, you party with these guys, and they're all different, but we all love foosball. And it's just an incredible experience. And there is nothing like the action, nothing like the passion of this event. And so for the first time in 3 years, June 28th through July 3rd in Nantes, France, the home of the World Cup, the world comes together again for what is unquestionably the greatest event in foosball. And it's all things hopefully go well leading into it. I think they will. And I think it's going to be just an incredible experience for everybody who's there, including you and your wife, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting year, 2022. And now, of course, we've established the cake, which is 2022. Now we need to add the frosting. And of course, Grant Nelson from originally from Colorado, who's in Florida, is going to be joining us this evening. But before we get to that, we have to reveal. Mark, you are now officially the FoosTalk Live correspondent. You want to preface this interview with anything?
Yeah, I'll do real quick because I want people to hear the interview. That's the most important thing. That's why a lot of people are here. Mr. Kelye Stites reached out to me. He has a message, and he wanted. There's two parts to this. One part of it is it's Mr. Stites, who owns Valley-Dynamo, who manufactures the Tornado foosball table, is going to start being more involved in foosball. And part of that is bridging his persona, who he is as a man and a business entrepreneur, to the foosball community, and showing, revealing who he is as a man and a business owner. And then the second part is what's his vision for foosball. And he had that message. So we talked. He reached out to me last week on Friday. We talked on Saturday, and here's the interview. That's all the preface we need. Let's let everyone hear what Mr. Stites has to say.
Always first with foosball news. Time now for an Inside FoosTalk Live exclusive interview.
Well, I am excited, truly excited, to have Mr. Kelye Stites, proprietor, CEO, and owner of Valley-Dynamo, the iconic Tornado foosball table. The first time in our media that we've had a table manufacturer. Mr. Stites, are you there, sir?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is probably long overdue.
On behalf of Inside Foos and really the foosball community, we couldn't be more elated to get a peek behind the curtain. And I mean that, and part of the agenda here is to humanize you, Mr. Stites, in terms of the community doesn't really know you. We probably should know more about you, and it's probably our burden to know you better. But you offering yourself up like this to answer some questions is really exciting for the whole community. So thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.
So to get started here, sir, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I think somebody had mentioned to me that they were curious about was my favorite movie, and I think this is a no-brainer. So hopefully everybody will agree with me. I've watched this movie many times. It's actually a trilogy, and I could watch it again today and still make me laugh. It's the Austin Powers series. I think the world would do us some good right now with everybody stressed out that we all just watch all three of those movies sometime this week.
What was amazing about that series, sir, is that how they got every cameo of every person ever. Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise, right? Everybody cameoed in that
fantastic
thing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now that we're talking about it, I may end up watching it again tonight. I hadn't watched it in probably a year.
That's awesome.
So me personally, I guess I'm a little bit of a redneck because I live here in Texas, and we all have a little bit of that in us. But, things that I like to do, like personally, is I'm a bow hunter, and I got into archery about 10 years ago, and I'm eating up with it, man. I just love it. So I've got a ranch up north of here on the Red River, and I'm probably there 1 or 2 days every week.
Wow.
So during deer season, I hunt deer, and then year round, we have a hog problem here in Texas. So I'm shooting hogs, so it doesn't get much more redneck than that. I do play golf. I'm not very good, so most of my friends are happy to take money from me.
Yeah.
But the thing that I thought would be interesting that maybe some of your players would like to know is that I'm an avid shuffleboard player.
Mm.
And I have a shuffleboard here at my house. I have one at the ranch. And starting in 1977, I started playing at a bar called Farkleberry's in College Station, Texas A&M. And I played for years, and I got out of college, and I actually joined the league, and I played in a shuffleboard league for 7 years. And then started a family, and when my kids were young, my wife really wouldn't let me out of the house much at night. So I took off about, 14, 15 years. And then I actually got back in it and played again for about another 5 years. So all you guys that play in the, in the leagues and the tournaments, I've done all that. I went to the tournaments, traveled to those, and did the league play. So I get it, I get it all. And it's really important to me as an individual and also as our company. We really understand the league and the tournaments. So I do love, right now, I'm probably playing. I know shuffleboard's not foosball, but it's all kind of the same family when you talk about a sport like that.
Yeah.
And so I've been playing that for, I'm going to say, over 40 years.
Wow.
Now, and still love the game. Now, my wife is a pretty decent foosball player.
Huh.
She played when she was younger. And I don't know if people even know this, but her dad, my father-in-law, started Dynamo in his garage here in Texas.
Wow.
So I don't know if you were aware of that. So she played as a young person. And if if she went to a tournament, she's not going to do very well. But if she went into a local bar and just played some locals, she could hold her own.
That's great. No, I think it's really, really interesting because there is something about these table type games. And for lack of a better description, in the United States, they're mostly identified as bar games because you find them in bars. It's not necessarily that way in other parts of the world, but I think there's something similar about these narrow space games, these bar games where they're intimate and they're close proximity. And so you competed, and may I ask, I don't know, did you compete at a novice or expert or amateur level in shuffleboard?
Well, there's a rating system that we have. I'm still rated right now. And I'm what they call a 2. I don't know how that corresponds into the foosball world, but when I go to a tournament, I'm on the lower end of the skill level. If I were to go into Joe's Bar and Grill, there's a good chance I'm not going to lose a game.
No. So this is great. The reason why I'm getting into this is at the competitive level, where foosball is simultaneously nuanced, but very similar to these other sports, whether it's darts or shuffleboard or any kind of intensely tight skill game. Can you talk a little bit about how the pressure affects you in competitive shuffleboard, the decision making, the tension, the motor skills, and how that changes when the pressure is on? Can you tell us a little bit of experience about shuffleboard at the competitive level?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the difference between shuffleboard and foosball is in shuffleboard, we have a long time between shots to really evaluate it and think about the strategy. It's not what I would call a fast-paced game by any means, but probably a lot like foosball, there's a lot of strategy in it. And when you talk about the pressure, it weighs in like it does in any sport. When the pressure's on and it's that last shot that you have to make, those, we call them weights. A lot of people call them pucks, but they're tough to hit. And the pressure, I've seen where I've made mental mistakes when the pressure's on too, not thinking clearly, even though we can take 2 or 3 minutes to think about the shot. what we want to do before we shoot it. So it still weighs in. Now, foosball's a different animal. You know, the people that are playing foosball have got to react so quickly. And, you know, we have that luxury at shuffleboard again where we can take our time.
You know, there it is and it isn't different. And I'll tell you why. We talk a lot about this in competitive circles. We talk about it on the podcast. We talk about it on our downtime. The physical skill of what we do, yeah, sure, there's training and there's hours you need to put in and there's developmental skill. But overall, we are talking about rods and plastic men and a ball. And so the amount of strength, like I don't want to disparage the technique. There's tons of technique. However, at the end of the day, we're talking about very minimal exertion overall. And just like it's all similar. We talk about soccer penalty kicks and how all the research done when the pressure is on, these penalty kicks that are typically very simple for these men and women to execute. Now the ball's going way far left and way far. Right. It can't even hit the ball straight. So whether it's shuffleboard, where you're dancing the puck across the way there, which takes minimal effort, the level of execution is no different in between the years. It's no different.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. It's I would think if you look at the top 20 players in the world, actually probably 5 of them live here in Texas, actually. So I get to watch these people play. But if you want to set a puck at the end of the table, they're all going to hit it. And they're all going to hit it and maybe leave that weight to the left or the right. They can all execute evenly physically. And what it comes down to is being able to play under the pressure. And it comes under the strategy. There's a lot of strategy on what you're going to do in that game. And that's what separates the winners from the losers at that level.
Hey, I got to ask you, because I want to draw the analogy. Do you feel the same level of, you start your oxygen changes and your breathing changes when you're trying to make a shot when you're hunting? Does that shot get a little bit more difficult when you're... Go ahead.
Well, that's a great analogy right there. And I'll tell you, I still get so excited. The first time that a buck came in and I was going to shoot it with a bow, and I like the bow hunting because it's a lot more difficult and challenging than rifle hunting. And the first time that one came in, I literally sat there and I was breathing and I could not pull back. And people have said that before, and I really didn't believe them. And I literally sat there and I could not pull back. I couldn't draw back. And even today, you start breathing heavy and the pressure's on and it's tough. And I still make mistakes right now shooting back. If you put a target out there, it's me and you goofing around at 20 yards. I'm going to shoot every arrow in a 3 to 4 inch circle without any question. Bring a deer in there at 20 yards. I probably am not going to miss it, but there's a good chance I can make a bad shot.
Yeah. I will tell you right now, we have that in common, sir, at any competitive level, or even when you're competing against yourself, and the foosball community will appreciate that about you, that the endeavors you have, that's a similarity that binds us, dealing with pressure, executing under pressure, and making the right decision and the right choice, and doing it with poise and composure. And that's kind of the addictive property about foosball, and I'm sure shuffleboard. Those moments, the highs and lows, especially the highs when the pressure's on and hitting the perfect shot, is something that compels us to be addicted to these types of things in the healthiest of ways, right?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. That's exactly correct.
I gotta ask you one more thing though, and this is for me. One time I called a hillbilly a redneck, and I think he wanted to beat me into the earth. And for our patrons listening now, is there a way you could differentiate or define for us the difference between a hillbilly and a redneck?
Well, I don't know that there is that much of a difference here in Texas. It's a badge of honor. So it's just kind of a way of life. It depends on where you grow up. I drive a truck, and I could probably drive a variety of different cars if I wanted to. It's just a lifestyle, and that's the way it is here. And I'm sure in different parts of the country and also different parts of the world, it's all just kind of depending on your surroundings and how you grew up.
I think I offended the gentleman because he was born in the hills or lived in the hills, and I guess you can't call a hillbilly a redneck if they grew up in the hills.
I didn't really want to go into this, but I kind of consider people from Alabama hillbillies.
Okay.
Now, I just met a couple of great guys from Alabama last week. And I don't say that in a negative way. I really mean it as a compliment. Because,
are you kidding me?
I'm kind of cut from the same mold.
This guy's a foozer, is a dear friend, and he thinks being called a hillbilly is a badge of honor. He was offended to be called a redneck, just so you know. So hey, to each his own. So we can start diving into some foosball questions, and one of the first ones here is, why did you get involved in foosball?
Well, so in the early 90s, I started the shuffleboard company, and we were kind of we were the only manufacturer in the world at that time. It was small. It was me and two other guys. And the company grew. We got into the home business, and the company really took off. And it put me into a position where I could start acquiring other companies, small companies. So I bought a pool table manufacturer, a powder manufacturer. And then in 2009, Valley-Dynamo came up for sale. Brunswick had bought it, moved it down to Mexico, and the company wasn't doing very well. So I went in and bought it, and I was out on a limb buying that, believe me, and didn't sleep well for a while. But I went and moved the company from Mexico back to Fort Worth, where we're at now, and the thing just took off. And Tornado just happened to be one of the brands that was in there with Valley Pool Tables, the Dynamo Air Hockey, and it just kind of came with the package. And so we moved all the manufacturing back here to Texas, hired a lot of the people that used to work here, and kind of just went from there. So the idea is, our model is, as a manufacturer, as we acquired small companies along the way, we were getting the very best brand name and what we thought was the very best product in each of those different lines. So we felt like that under one umbrella, Valley-Dynamo, we now own the very best brand names and the very best product in each of those different arenas. My experience,
when a portfolio is acquired and there's multiple brands in there, you only have so much bandwidth. And so, and I don't want to draw, basically you're a shuffleboard guy, you buy a great company, you stress over it, but it turns out that it's working in the right direction. Is Tornado rising in your visibility or interest to develop and support? What are your plans for Tornado in the next 5 years?
So, we picked up a lot of brands on that acquisition. And you look at like our pool table. Well, we shipped 300 pool tables to Vegas and had 8,000 players that come in from all over the world. That's been going on for 35, 36 years. I didn't start it, but we support it. We've got pro air hockey players as well, which kind of seems unbelievable, but we cater to those guys too. The foosball, although I'm not a player, I mean, I couldn't beat any of you guys that are listening to this right now, but I understand the importance of it. Everywhere I go, I hear about how good the table is. And our job is to continue the manufacturing process and keep it at that level where everybody's happy. And it's a hard product to build, by the way, too. One of our hardest with the tolerances that we have to keep.
Right.
So we understand the players, the league, the tournaments, and I know a lot of people feel like it's the redheaded stepchild. We don't give it the attention and all. We really do. We're probably behind the scenes too much. I met last week with US TSO guys, and we're going to start doing some things probably this year to support them. So we want to change our image and get out there that we're going to be supportive. But you have to understand too, as a businessman, people want free tables. We get a lot of pulls in a lot of different directions for us to do stuff. And sometimes it's tough for us because for every one table we give away, I've got to go sell 10 just to break back even.
Wow.
So we want to help, but we've got to have a partnership where we can work together. And the Texas State tournament here, Steve Murray, I mean, they did a great job. We supplied 40 or 50 tables, and they sold them all. Well, we can make stuff like that work if we can get in there and cover freight, get some tables out there. We can give away some things, but then when our tables get sold and we can capture a profit, we can at least walk out of there breaking even. And I know the tournament guys, they're not making a ton of money doing this. They do it because they love it. And so, again, we want to work with them all that. On a sales end, so we look at this, it's really pull-through marketing for us. All these tournaments are going on around the country, and it keeps our name out there and our brand. And where we're selling is through 2 distribution channels. One of them is our coin-op guys. There might be one coin-op distributor that handles all of our product. He might cover a 3 or 4 state area. So there's not a ton of them across the United States, but we sell to those guys. But our biggest market is into the home, and it's a sought-after brand name. So whatever city you happen to be in, if you're in Denver, we'll have maybe 2 dealers in that city, but we'll have 5 other dealers that want to carry the Tornado name. It's that popular. And those guys are selling tables for the home probably every day. And, we have a capacity to build about 60 tables a day. And during the Christmas time, we do that. I don't know where they all go, honestly, but it's just a great product for us. And it has been for years. And what we wanted to do, and that's why we wanted to meet with the USTSO guys, is see how we can get involved more and more and help these guys that are doing tournaments. Especially, we'd like to get these leagues going. That's just huge. And, they're difficult getting that going in a grassroots environment and keeping it going. And I'll tell you something else I really like, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes or talk out of place because, again, I don't play in foosball tournaments. But I know when I played in shuffleboard tournaments, what I used to hate is we would go there to the tournament, and I'd be up having to wait around to see when I played for hours. You can't do anything else. Sometimes I get called at 2 a.m. and I've got a game. And it's so restrictive. I like that. I think they call it the Swiss style, where you kind of got it all laid out. And so I was talking to these guys. I'd like to, if the players are okay with that, I'd like to get our company involved and help us here in the States transition to that Swiss style of play. Because I know for me, when I played, man, I'd love it if I knew my schedule and there were not going to be any conflicts and you knew where you were going to play or what time you were going to play.
That is so exciting to hear. It has been just a habitual way we've done things, double elimination for decades. And Kelly, you're 100% on board with where we want to go. So truly, and of course, you probably are familiar with a lot of the international community has transitioned to the Swiss system for the exact reason you're describing with shuffleboard. Because you can sit around for hours not knowing when you're going to play, and then you're just a burnout in a hotel, and you finally get to play. So this is really exciting to hear.
Yeah, so that's what we want to do, and we're going to try to encourage everybody to make that transition. And I haven't worked out any details yet. We just talked about this last week. But that's what we want to do is get involved. And if you're going to run a Swiss-style type tournament, then Tornado Foosball will want to be a part of that to help with the transition.
Wow. I guess this was part of the question. When I said, where do you see foosball in the next 5 years? Are you saying that you'd like to be, you specifically in Valley-Dynamo as your company would like to be more participatory in the move? Go ahead. I want to let you talk.
Yeah, we would. And it's got to be, it's got to be reasonable. We just got to get with these guys and work together and explain to them, where we're coming from. A lot of people think that we're just billionaires sitting on some hill printing money. And I mean, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And this pandemic, it's hurt us. I mean, I borrowed money last year.
Wow.
And, we've never had to do that in the past, but our coin-op sales went down 80% with the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we took a beating. But again, and I'm not trying to look for sympathy. I'm just saying the facts are for us to be involved. Again, we're not just back here printing money. So we want to do what's reasonable and we want to help out. But when these guys come to us and they want tables and they can sell them and we don't have to bring them back to our facility.
Yeah.
Now that's what we need. We can work with that. So, again, we'll try to figure it out in the next coming weeks. We'll be meeting again, and we'll try to work out some details that everybody can live with. I don't know how it's going to shake out yet. But to answer your question, we expect our sales in foosball to continue to go up, and we would like to be out there more than we are right now, which is fairly limited in helping people do tournaments and especially the league play. To what degree, I don't know, but I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of us out there this year and the next 5 years.
That is tremendous to hear. And you know what? I got one last question for you, Kelly, as we get to the tail end here of our time together. Thank you again. Yep. Will Tornado be at the World Cup this year? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, and this fits in timing. The answer is yes, we will.
Nice.
Now, we didn't think we were going to be able to, and it came down to we had to give away a lot of free tables. We've got to pay the freight and everything. And it's just too dang costly for us. And we're not that big in the European market like we are here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So it just didn't make sense for us. But we had some friends that helped us kind of negotiate a new deal. And I think we're going to be sending, I don't remember the number. It's either 45 or 60, but we're going to send a full container load over there. So we'll have our tables there for this year's tournament, definitely.
Wow. This is an Inside Foos exclusive. The owner of Valley Dynamo committing that we're going to find a way to ensure that Tornado is represented at the World Cup. Kelly, that is incredible news. And, I don't want this to be understated. I want to make sure that this is clear. There can be a perception, and this is why it's so critical to humanize leadership. There can be a perception that you are some company that's just printing money. And it's even, that perception even grows with, certain persons that may or may not understand the operating costs of a business. But it has been very, very illuminating to hear you say, look, our margins are thin and the pandemic hurt us. That's important to know and hear that. So the community understands, look, hearing you say you had to borrow money, which, by the way, I work in healthcare and everybody borrowed money during the pandemic. Everybody did. If you wanted to stay solvent, you borrowed money. That's happened for everybody. So I just, I don't want it to be understated. I think it was very important to hear that, and it'll drive compassion. That look, you're not out looking for a handout. You're not a victim. You're not looking for anyone to, feel badly for you. You're just stating the facts that we got to make sure our business remains solvent, and your responsibility is broad enough that we've got to make smart decisions. That's it. And it's not giving away free tables. The whole community can get behind that.
And I don't want to say that we can't do that. I just want to say the math on it is, we're a company like most companies. We try to put 10% on the bottom line. You give one table away, you got to sell 10 others to break even.
Right.
But again, when these guys are getting out there like Steve Murray did, I think we did 50 tables and he sold all 50.
Mm-hmm.
And we did some discounting. The tables are used and, we can do all that.
Yeah.
But, that just works for us. We're not having to bring them back in the company. And that's what we want to do is get with the people in the States that want to do these tournaments and all, and just work with them and, do what's reasonable where we can all come out of there okay. Nobody's going to get rich doing them, but doing the tournaments and all.
Right.
But we all work together and, let's make it happen.
This has been a lovely, amazing, and important conversation that Inside Foos is proud through our various channels to deliver to the international community. And Kelly, I can't thank you enough for your time. Unless you have, is there anything else you'd like to say? Now that we're at the tail end here, is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
No, I appreciate the time to communicate like this. And probably what we ought to do is just set it up, and a couple of times a year, we do the same thing. Just keep everybody up to date on what's going on.
Well, Kelly, it has been brilliant. Once again, we're all excited, and thank you so much. We're looking forward to the future with Tornado, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you again real soon, sir.
Wow, Mark, that was amazing. What news?
Thank you.
What
news?
Yeah.
Listen to the crowd.
Crazy. Yeah, I want to say a couple things before we get some responses or reactions. We have to thank Donald Wilson. Mm-hmm. And Tracy McMillan and the USTSO. Donald Wilson was instrumental in managing and negotiating on the ITSF side. He's still doing it. And T-Mac and Tracy, I'm sorry, T-Mac and Donald. And last but not least, Steve Murray, who was the glue in the bridge to getting Kelly to the table. It's kind of like the foosball community rising up, USTSO and Murray, and them coming together and all being the needed pieces to get Tornado. It was high risk. Tornado was not going to be at the World Cup. It was incredibly high risk.
Right.
But people made the effort out of their unpaid time to connect all the dots. And these are the groups and the people that are that made it happen. So thank you, Donald, T-Mac, Steve Murray, and the USTSO.
Yeah, great job by you as well, Mark.
thank you.
That was outstanding job. And a couple of things we learned there. Certainly, obviously, the fact that Tornado will be at the World Cup is a big thing for the fortunes of the United States in particular. Not that they couldn't have won it on a different table, but it was unlikely. And now they will have their home table to play on. That's great news for everyone. And also is getting behind the Swiss system. Certainly, that is tremendous news. As you know, all of us here are such believers in it, of course, and to have the weight of the Tornado Company thrown behind it as well is just a huge thing. So thanks to Kelye Stites. Great interview.
Yeah, really terrific stuff. And tomorrow, Air France is going to see a huge increase in advance bookings to
that's awesome.
to Nantes. Wow, very, very cool. So, Mark, what else can you share with us when it comes to Kelly? What kind of guy was he off mic?
Oh man, he's just like super cool. I mean, I spent another 30 minutes after the interview, by the way, with him.
Nice.
And Jim, just to bridge what you said, he was very clear in the additional portion of time that was not recorded. He wants to proliferate the Swiss system across the United States.
Awesome. Yeah,
it's not just
great.
Valley-Dynamo saying we're going to
Cool.
get behind it. It's saying we're going to get behind it with support, resources, engagement, visibility. So he's huge on it. But to answer your question, Tom, as much as you can get to know someone, and I feel like I'm a pretty decent judge of character,
Sure.
he is as down to earth and engaging and open and really just a really, really nice guy. And looking forward. He left an invitation at the end. He said we should probably do this with. He didn't say frequency, but he said
Right.
some
Yeah.
regularity.
He'll
And
come,
we want to make sure that we're a medium for him to get his message across and help push foosball in the United States to where it should be.
Well, Donald Wilson is joining us. Donald, are you with us?
I am here.
How you doing, Donald? Thanks for joining us on FoosTalk Live. Did you hear the interview?
Oh yes, I was really excited listening to it, and it's great news.
So thank you for your efforts and your time. Obviously, you've been a big part of this.
Well, the USTSO, we have been meeting and talking and really trying to work through this since way back in probably November when it first, wasn't sure what they were going to do. But through some negotiating and learning a little bit more about how things work on both the ends with ITSF and Tornado, we just knew we had a gut feeling USTSO that we could work something out. And Fareed he knows how important it is to have Tornado there. And we did find out that there are about 15 to 20 countries that calls Tornado their home table. Yeah. So that's a big thing there too. And so it just really worked out. And then just talking with Kelly and his son Trey, these guys are so genuine, and they were our 1 hour meeting turned into a 2 hour sit down, so it was really great to get to know these guys. And man, they on board. I mean, they were telling us things that we've been thinking about for a long time. So it was great how things just all meshed together. And wow. we actually told them about some things USTSO is working on by starting a wheelchair division, and they're willing to go ahead and get some tables in the future for us for that. And we told them how we'd like to reach every state in the U.S. Because everybody has wheelchair sports in each state. We told them about our club system, and that's when we started talking about Swiss and all that. And it was really exciting. And I just want to say, thank you, Tornado, for being there all the time for us. And I look for great things in the future with USTSO and Tornado.
Wow, that's terrific news. Jim, do you have any questions?
No, it is great news. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of countries around the world who were kind of counting on Tornado being there. It's countries like Canada, of course, Costa Rica, Japan, Iran, and others. But it's really great. I think all of us kind of thought this was going to be possible, that something could be worked out in order to make this happen, Donald. And we certainly appreciate the USTSO and your efforts in making sure this gets done. So thank you.
I'm a player, and we definitely want it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Don, let's make some plans in the near future here for you to come back and spend a bit more time with us and chat about the future of USTSO and some leagues and the kinds of things we'd like to hear more about, of course.
Okay, one more thing I'd like to say before we go. We do have the TKO coming up, but also in the TKO, we're having our first annual USTSO championships, and that will be held Thursday at 4 o'clock. And that's all the players that joined the USTSA points race throughout the whole year. we took the top 16 in each division, and we're going to have a single elimination tournament to decide who the top player of each rank was for the year 2021. Wow.
That's the TKO coming right up. That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank y'all for what y'all do. I appreciate y'all, and y'all have a good night.
Oh, you too.
All right, man. I'm going to call you tomorrow, Donald. Thank you, man. Talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Bye.
All right. Yep.
Well, guys, how could it get any better than that? I mean, we talk about news and the kinds of things that we're all excited about. It's pretty extraordinary. I really got to say. But we have a special guest coming our way from Cape Coral, Florida this evening. Now, he's originally from Denver, Colorado, and was a phenom back in the day. His name is Grant Nelson. Grant, are you with us? Are you hanging in there, man?
I am here. How are you?
Yeah,
thanks
Grant.
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on FoosTalk Live. It's great to hear your voice. I know that you had quite the persona when it came to your early days in foosball, although these days you're not playing as much. But you got to give me an idea to start off here. When it comes to your being raised in Denver, Colorado, when was the first time you saw a foosball table, and what kind was it?
Oh, wow. The first time I ever saw a foosball table was not it wasn't tornado. It was not tournament related. It was at a skate city in Aurora, Colorado.
Skate City.
It was actually a block and a half from Arapahoe Sports, where is basically the root of Colorado foosball. It was like a block and a half around the corner.
Wow. Very cool.
But
very cool.
I was maybe 8 or 9. There was a wadded up ball of tape on the table because I didn't have any money, and I was on some sort of field trip there, and I was just kicking the thing around. That was the first time I ever saw a table.
So, and when did you start to play competitively after that?
I would say that when the next time that I saw the next time I saw foosball at all, it was skillful foosball, and my dad, Ron Nelson, he had put in a bar game room in Littleton, Colorado, and there was mostly pool tables, but a couple people asked for some foosball tables.
Okay.
And we were ignorant to the whole situation. My dad was putting a bar, and we didn't know anything about the foos scene.
Mm-hmm.
But he had some people wanting to play tournaments, so we started having these bring your partners. And there was these 2 guys, I don't know who they were, that they would come and play, and they seemed really good to me. And then these 2 younger Arab guys, and they were fantastic. And they would play. They would come and they dressed the same. They both wore yellow, and they dressed the same. And they would come in and they would get in the finals against the other one guy, the forward. His name was Curtis, and he was like a real wily, like teenager looking guy, and he was really good. And he could hit a pull kick like I had never seen.
Wow.
I'd never seen organized foos, so that was it. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And they would play, and there'd be like 5 or 6 teams, and they would win every time.
Wow.
So that was like the first time that I ever saw it. And I've now connected the dots on where they got it and where all that came from. But that was my first experience on seeing organized foos.
Very cool. So you got addicted relatively early in life. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I would say I was maybe 10 or 12. I was probably 12. And my dad was this kind of will harken back to something I'll probably end up coming up is I really believe in practice and repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that, if you're willing to take the pain of a crash, you can learn anything. It's
Right.
just repetition and learning it the right way. If it's hard, you're probably not using the right method. Okay, so backing that up, my dad was an engineer. He was educated engineer, type A, but knew how to teach, knew and was a coach. So he taught me how to play pool and darts and all this because he owned bars before this.
Mm-hmm.
So Papa Shot. I mean, we had Papa Shots at our bar, and we would sit there. My dad and I would sit there on the weekends before the bar would open, and we would play games of Papa Shot for money, like $10 a shot. We called it shoot for bucks. My sister got rich. I remember having meltdowns, losing money, and I'm talking like hundreds of dollars because my dad was just weird like that.
Okay.
You know, like, hey, 50 a shot. We're like, what? You know, I mean, it was unbelievable. And then, you know, I lost like $300 when I was like 8 years old to pop a shot. It still hurts. I'm getting nervous right now talking about it.
Yeah.
This whole thing, dude, this whole thing is just tripping me out, bro. So you're like 12 years old in a bar that your dad owns playing $50 of, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Drinking an IPA as well, probably.
And if you're down 300 when you're 8 and you're stressed out, I'm actually worried about your post-traumatic stress more than my own. But hey,
believe me, believe me, you know, I'm aware of a lot of anxieties. And then my dad was over there smoking a cool menthol, loving it.
Dude, my stress was like, what's that game where you try to pull the bones out of the body? That was
Operation.
That was my stress.
Hey, Grant, let me interject in here. Great to hear your voice. Great to hear your voice. It's been a while. It's been quite a while, but I remember very well you and your dad Ron coming to tournaments, of course. And Papa Shot is great for repetitive motion, isn't it? It's just that same motion over and over as quick as you can get that ball in there.
Yes. With that said, so this is one thing that I kind of wanted to do on this is that there's all these like forgotten names that people that stuck out as far as very skillful people that I know are good at everything they do. And the Papa Shot thing, the reason why I'm bringing that up is there's a player from Colorado. I think he lives in St. Louis now. His name is Eric Stump. And if anyone's ever met Eric, he's an acquired taste. And I get along with Eric, and I would, we practice like many hours. And that guy right there, if you've ever seen crazy videos on YouTube of guys scoring like 500 on Papa Shot, he did that 20 years ago. Yeah. It was a joke.
You know who's a great Papa Shot? I thought I was good. And every year at the Texas State Championships, Steve Murray sets up a Papa Shot out there in the lobby, and I thought I was good. And then I played against Tony Spredeman. And Tony was remarkable. He's in that same class with Eric Stump, of those guys that can really get quite a few. Yeah, he's great at it. And it's great training, especially for a 12-year-old in Colorado, smoking his dad's menthols, drinking an IPA, and playing Papa Shot for $10 a shot. But, you came up, and of course, I remember you well. Obviously, there was that great crew out of Colorado, Loffredo and Mares and Weidman and Spear and Tina Roton and Shelley Langley, Gary Edgeworth. Right, yeah. Mike Bowers, of course, the old timer, and I think you have some Bowers stories for us, maybe as we move along here. But then it was you, and you were, I kind of remember you down there. Sometimes you were sort of, and maybe I don't remember this clearly, but you were like maybe wrapping the rod for some of these guys because you were the youngster, right? You were the kid, you were that up and coming guy who was super talented. You were a guy we all looked at and said, this is the best young 17 and under player in the world right now. And you had some good years. In fact, I was just recently uploading the 2001 Tornado World Championships to InsideFoos.com. In fact, if you'd like to see literally one of the greatest events in the history of the sport, it's up there now, folks. Go and subscribe to Inside Foos because it's the year Johnny Horton won singles, maybe the greatest match of all time, that doubles final, right? Well, you played Johnny Horton in that event, and you had him down 2-0 in a winner's bracket match in open singles.
Wow.
He came back and beat you in 3 in a row. Talk a little bit about that match and about that tournament.
That kind of brings up something that I focus on in life is I like to jump in and be a front runner, and then finishing was always a struggle because I felt like I'd go too fast and I'd jump in, I'd blow all my cards first. So looking back at that, that was kind of something that would happen is I would jump out and I would like show all my cards, and then the struggle would come and I'd lose. I'd get this like letdown at the end, and it's like Johnny, it's like that guy. I mean, I love playing that guy. His game is unbelievable. I mean, I love playing that guy. I think I played him really well later. I have a memory of playing him in New Mexico after that. I lament that match. I was ready to kick his ass, and I played a really good game. I focused. I had notes on him, and I got out there too fast, and I let him off. He didn't win that match from. I lost it, but I'm going to be stuck on that. That's a tough one for me.
Nice job, Jim. Just like having him dive into misery.
That's my job, buddy. That's my job.
That's my job. It's my job. Hey,
well, you didn't have the info. You didn't have the intel.
That's good. I love it. Grant, I gotta ask you, man. So like my memory of you was that we were still. I mean, it was the 90s, early to mid 90s, and I start seeing you come around later 90s. But you were in that incubator, and we always did a oh crap when someone was coming up in the Colorado incubator system, and I'm talking about when you're playing against like Scotty and Gus and Todd and Spear. I don't know, maybe Gus was gone already, but you like when Rednecky is like a secondhand draw in the draw your partner. It's crazy, right? I want to hear about that training and development with Loffredo and Terry Moore. Give us some insight. What's going on behind the scenes as you're growing up in that environment to be a top class player rapidly on tour?
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sort of trying to give the cliff notes because I don't think we have enough time for the full story. So, all right, we'll start with my dad had the arcade, or it was. So this is my dad opened a bar called Blues. It was in Littleton, Colorado. It was at Bellevue and Federal. He had it with a partner. The partner had some issue and he couldn't get a liquor license. Some legal issue. So my dad was like, "Well, we're gonna change route here. We're gonna open a game room." So put everything was sitting there ready to open, waiting for a liquor license, and they didn't get it. So he said, "Well, we're opening anyway. We're gonna open a game room." Opened the game room, had some air hockey in there, pop a shot. He'd already owned bars before this, so we just moved equipment from there, changed the name, put some different, neon logos up there, and opened the game room instead of the bar that he had in Commerce City before that. The foosball tournament started coming, and we started seeing those bring your partners that we had mentioned before, and I saw that. And then a guy pulled me aside because I kept watching it, and he was like, "Hey, let me show you something. You want to see how these guys do it?" It's like, yeah. His name is Travis Sargent. I have no clue anything else about the guy. Super tall guy, could shoot a long pull shot, called it the dead zone, and showed me how to do it, and said I should be able to do it 10 times in a row, but without missing. And I was like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool. My dad owns these tables. How about we open these up and just start hitting these balls?" My dad had taught me about repetition. I had already played soccer. I played a few seasons of soccer. We did really well. We won a state championship. I played golf with my dad. The Papa shot, for money. Repetition had already kind of been into me. I wasn't like conscious of it, but I was doing it. So let's play. So I started doing that, started playing. Then I seen these guys play, watching them. And then I noticed they would leave and they would come back with new moves. He's like, "Yeah, let me show you. I learned this." And he did a reverse, like it was a pull push kick. And he tried it like 10 times. And I remember thinking, "Wow, I like the idea, but man, you're not very good at this." That was what I thought. I was like, I got the idea. So I kept playing. And then, so I stumble upon this. So earlier, this guy, Curtis, he comes in, he's by himself and he's practicing. And so I'm just watching him. And he's like, and he's just talking to me, this and that. And he's like, the guy who taught me how to do this, his name is Ross Cortez. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. Because I'm at the bar, I'm the owner's son, so they're all just hanging out. We're all just talking. And so this Ross Cortez guy, he's like a regular apparently, because I'm only here on the weekends or whatever. Because I'm a kid. I'm like 12. And I kind of talked to him. He plays the air hockey tournaments too, and he's really good at it. He's good at this, and he has a pull kick, but he can also pass. He has a tic tac pass that he could do a wall pass, and he is clearly better than everybody else, including Curtis and this guy, and the young Arab team that clearly knows how to play from wherever they're from, and he's a step above them. And I'm like, wow, where's this guy? And so my dad's always encouraged me to go talk to him, and I'm nervous, whatever. Go talk to this guy, and I finally talking to him. He's super cool, and he says, yeah, I go to this place called the Lamplighter, and lo and behold, to kind of just cut this a little short to because I need to take a drink real quick. Is the lamplighter is sort of the next or two steps of later from like the original Rapo Sports. And the lamplighter was in Littleton. That's where like Todd and Gus and them were all playing, and that's where the original incubator was before I came, but after Bowers. So there's the step.
Cool.
Okay, I need to get a drink. Hold on, my mouth's dry.
Grant, it's okay to breathe, man. We'll let you breathe.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, while you're taking your
But
drink,
hey, we're gonna get the good stuff, Adam, because he's still got to get Bridge to. Now he's under Todd's mentorship, and it's either one of two things with Todd. Yeah, you got to get to that, dude, because that's where I want to get to.
Well, let's let Adam.
Go ahead.
Let's hear what Adam has to say.
No, forget Adam. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't even going to ask. I wasn't even asked that. I'm curious about the human element here. Like, you're the phenom. You're out of the incubator. You're on your way up. You're playing Johnny Horton in 2000 Worlds. What was the breaking point for you? Why did you step away from this?
I think my last Foos tournament was maybe the 2001-ish, 2-ish Worlds. My last major.
Wow.
You played Horton. You played Horton at the 2001 World, so that definitely was. You were still active at that point.
Right. So I think that's probably the last one. And so, I mean, honestly, right then, I was the breaking point was there was a lot of other things that I wanted to do. And I could continue to go to the foosball tournaments, and basically it was a free party. And I was making a little bit of money plus the trip. So it was a cool cycle. But I wanted to do other things. I had started playing paintball competitively, and I wanted to go do that. And I ended up going to the World Championships of Paintball in like 2002 or 3. But that takes a lot of commitment, and there's a lot of team element there. I was going out downtown. I was, going partying and meeting new people outside of the foos community that I had been, basically living in since I was 15. So there was a lot of why I stopped going, but it was really just, I wanted to try other things. It's like, I felt like I had, and I still believe this, and it's something that I will always say is that, there's a lot of mental tools that I feel like I sharpened in foos, and I wanted to use them other places and see if they worked. And they absolutely do.
That's awesome. And, just a quick follow up, then I'll let Mark go back again so we can then talk over me. But what you're talking about, I think speaks to what a lot of these up and comers that are playing right now are going to be experiencing soon. Because what you're really ostensibly talking about is life. Life came for you, right? Yeah. And you started young, right? And we always talk about on the show the importance of starting early and learning the right way to play and just being in that environment. And that is what we all know makes a great foosball player. But does it make a person that wants to play foosball as they grow older? And I remember now that you doing that pro oh my gosh, it's not called paint gun. My entire brain just left me. Paintball.
Yeah,
I knew I was a word off, but I remember that, because I remember asking, like, I'd heard about your name. I was like, well, what's he doing now? I was like, paintball. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's just, to me, that's just awesome that you found your way, and now you're living in Florida. So that's great.
Yeah.
And he found other ways of using what he learned from foosball, right? You said that, which is, I think, a key for a lot of us. I think, it's a martial art for so many of us that we learned about ourselves, learned about life through foosball, and then we're able to implement that in other areas as well.
So true. Yeah. I mean, it's such a, for me, it's kind of revolutionary, really, because for me that, we moved down to Florida. We've kind of had a change in philosophy, just the way I live down here. And it's got me thinking about how I got to here, and just a kind of a clarity. And then coming to do this interview, it's like, it's all coming full circle. So I've got a lot of thoughts on how I got to where I am in development, and foos is a huge thing with it. There's so much that I learned and that because I learned it and used it in high pressure situations, I can harken back to it now during like anxiety or like issues or like maybe a mental state that I might be struggling with, that I know I can do it because I did it under high pressure.
Which brings me back full circle. Is fascinating for me. And so there's a selfish interest in the question I asked you. It's because I didn't have that. I wondered what it was like when I was 16 and we were a bunch of idiots in my garage or at Keystone Arcade with gangsters hacking around trying to figure it out. And we had it from a distance. Imagine what it would have been like to have Loffredo or Spear or, Gus or any of these guys like as mentors. And you had that. And I'm sure, and I know it's only one of two answers. Like Loffredo, you're either he was mentoring you, or he was like probably somehow abusing you for his own for competitive. So I want to get back to that, because now you got to the point where now you're going to the Lamplighter. I know who's going there. Tim Walters and Gary Edgeworth, all these dudes are like assholes, but frankly, that are all fighting it out in their circles. Talk to me now about what's happening with Spear and Loffredo and Lamplighter. Let's hear how you were groomed to be the man you are today.
All right, yeah. So now I've only even became aware of the Lamplighter just now. So now, before this, I've seen some guys that have before me saw Loffredo and them. I don't know this yet, but that's who Ross Cortez had seen at the Lamplighter. He saw Loffredo and Spear and all them hanging out. And he would go there and get his ass kicked and then come back and kick everyone else's ass with the knowledge. Because he was a guy that competitive. He was good at the air hockey. He was good at darts, good at everything. He would just go over there, watch it, come over here, and come over to my dad's place, do that, and then I would watch him, and then, that was the cycle, right? And it just continues on into infinitum as people are showing people, and that kind of goes back to a philosophy on building foosball that I'll get into later. But anyway, so now I'm aware of the Lamplighter, and now here's a segue. There was another offshoot, a small little offshoot place called Broadway's in Littleton, and it was ran by a guy named Greg Carter. He was not the most popular person because he was sort of like the competition against the Lamplighter, which was always sort of this like kind of struggling. It was almost like the Bohemian arcade. It was like the Bohemian art scene where people just go there just to keep the doors open. That was always the way I viewed the Lamplighter, because no one was ever in there except for the foos people. And it was sort of ran down, and like the floor was unlevel and all this. You'd go in there and it was like that because it was like an old. It's like when you see those movies of chess training areas, and it's just disheveled in there. There's holes in the wall and shit. Well, that's the Lamplighter. It's disgusting. And then you got Loffredo and Spear in there sessioning for money.
Wow.
And so, because that's just me seeing this later. So, okay, we discover this. We go to this Broadway's place as my first tournament, and my first tournament outside of my dad's place. I started playing some DYPs and stuff. Not really memorable because I'm like playing with these people. I'm sure I'm getting pounded or whatever. They let me take a shot or here and there, but I get a little decency where I can at least play on my own. I go over to this Broadway's place, and at this point, I see Gary Edgeworth. I'd never seen it before. The dude is a Neanderthal. I mean, if anyone who knows him, his hands are huge. He's just a bigger individual than everybody. And he hits the ball like a ton of bricks. And he goes in there and he runs this little tournament over, and I'd never seen it before. And so, okay, that happened. We learn about a tournament. We learn about a tournament at the Lamplighter, and we go over there, and I see these people playing, and they're like, yeah, Todd Loffredo, he's this little skinny little Italian guy. And, I struggled with my weight. I was, 6 foot right away, and then I stopped growing right then. And so he's like, yeah, you're looking for this little skinny Italian guy that shoots a ball really fast. So I'm wandering around this dump that the Lamplighter is, but it's this artist bohemian dump, so you respect it because you're like, things are happening. All the knowledge is coming out here. They don't have time to keep it all nice and shiny. They're playing foos. So I go in there, I see this guy, I see this like skinny Italian looking guy, and he is crushing long pull shots, like fast. And if they ever watched Todd and he would have his mouth open, he would pull a pull shot and his cheeks would jiggle and his lips and everything. Anyone know that? Notice that? If you haven't, you will now.
Oh yeah. I've watched a few Loffredo matches.
Trade secrets.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. I mean, his eyes aren't even open. It's unbelievable. It's the magic of Loffredo. So I see it, and he's just crushing it, and and imagine this like sort of almost Joe Dirtish kind of mullet kind of going on. But at the time, it's like we're talking 91. It's perfectly. I mean, it's cool. It's like, whoa, look at this guy. He's with it. Like this guy. Look at him. He's crushing these pull shots. That's what I came to see. So I'm watching, and I play in the DYP. Nothing really happens, and then someone comes up to me and he said, like, "Hey, sorry, Todd didn't show up." I'm like, "What?" Like, Todd didn't show up to the tournament, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's right there. I've been watching the whole time." I'm like, "No, that's Chris Lopez." And if anyone knows Chris Lopez, he's like a mirror of Todd, game and everything.
It's so funny, dude.
So
there's
I watched
a resemblance.
Chris Lopez
Yeah,
for 2 hours.
there's a resemblance.
Yeah, I watched Chris Lopez play for 2 hours. I'm still close buddies with Chris Lopez to this day. It's funny, but yeah. So I see that, and so I don't see the lamplighter for a while, and so the blues. My dad sells blues. I kind of lose touch with foosball for a little bit because my dad sells blues. And I don't know what the transition was, but then my dad opens an arcade just up the street, and it's called Gators. He basically did. My dad said, it's really a good business where I don't have the alcohol. You're not dealing with like drunkards and all the drama that goes along with that. I like this arcade idea, so I'm just going to go up the street and open an arcade and call it Gators. And so we could keep the pool tables green. We named it Gators, and then just did the same thing, neon and all that. But then we were keen to the foos scene at this point. And so what my dad did is he set up, he called Tornado and to see like how many tables would we need to buy to get like a major or whatever. And it was like 15 or it was like 20, or there was something for them to like give us some sort of report. It's like 20 tables. And my dad was like, well, I don't really want to put 20 tables. I'm not really sure about how much, how they're going to do or whatever. So he bought 10. My dad bought 10 tables. We took 2 home and we put 6 of them at the place. And then my dad was like, well, we're going to have 2 in the bullpen because if we're going to have tournaments, we need warm-up tables. That was the way my dad thought. So we had tables. And then one minute he did that, I would say a week later, it was like Saturday afternoon after we opened, Todd wandered into Gators by himself. There was nobody else in there. And came in, talked to my dad. I don't know if they had met before or how that happened, but he talked to my dad. I talked to him. I met him. He left. Probably didn't see him again for a year. So there's the intro to Todd.
But eventually he came back and you learned under his tutelage.
Right. So for sure. So that's how I met him. And then, so I mean, at this point, there's sort of an intersection because Todd, he was constantly like traveling, kind of like now where he would constantly travel. He'd go to like a region, he'd play a bunch of tournaments, he'd maybe come back to Denver, he'd be in Denver for a while, so it's not like Todd was like super accessible. And, given my like vision of him and sort of his status, it was sort of superstarish. He's sort of he's cruising around playing tournaments and doing this and that. He's not in town. He'll show up at a DYP, then he won't. Like, there's no consistency. It's like, where is this guy? He's a ghost, but he's the GOAT. So you have to, it's like, whatever. I can't judge what he's doing. He's the best there is.
What
he's
year
Gretzky. 91 maybe.
91. Okay.
So him and Gus are like dominating at this point. Trevino.
Yeah, he was on the rise. Todd was on the rise as the forward. Yeah.
Again, and he was like as forward, which
So
hasn't been his major.
Exactly. So when did you sort of segue from being a local player, a growing local player? I assume you kind of caught the fever, around these guys. When did you kind of start to come out on tour and start to become a quote unquote tour player?
Right. Okay. So my first major was 1993 Nationals. It was in Louisiana. I had never experienced humidity like that. It was unreal. Okay, so that was my first tournament. I'll back up just to give a little color. Before that, I think there was a tour kickoff in Long Beach. Is that right?
Yeah, 93, yes. US Open.
Okay.
Yep.
So back up to that. So I've now played a couple tournaments. I'm sort of aware of the scene. I'm aware of the tour, right? I'm aware that there's a bigger, badder scene out there that this is pretty epic what's going on, and I like it. And I'm actually pretty decent at it. I have a little pull kick going. I have a wall pass. I got a couple little sneak moves that if no one knows me, I can kind of sneak it by them. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at. Now, the scene that I'm living in is a huge scene that's still there now. Tim Walters. Tim Walters, super formative for me. Wall pass and pull kick and pull shot. Pulled me aside, kind of showed it to me. I remember it huge. I mean, Tim's larger than life in every way. He's super awesome. I love the dude. Fond memories of him. That's kind of where I first learned, hey, you need a lane pass, a stick wall, and a pull shot. So that's kind of where that came from. And then there's one other guy. His name's Derek Selsvold. He ended up being like a semi-professional wrestler named the Corpse. Go Corpse. Moose will know him. Moose from Denver. He'll recognize that. But he pulled me aside and he showed me a lot of stuff. Showed me how to play pull shots, pull kicks, and I kind of first person to talk strategy with me. Derek Selsvold. And like I said, I want a lot of the local guys, that no one ever knows. I want to know that they taught me, and I just kind of melded a lot of what they took, and then my own ideas, and then just repetition and ran with it. But so that's big one. Ross Cortez showing me all that. But yeah, now I'm like into where I'm learning actually how to play. So I played a couple draws. I've seen kind of what's going on. Now I'm starting to get a feel for the rankings and who's ranked what, who stands where. I'll just say it. Who's a charlatan and who isn't, who is really good, who has a good shot and who doesn't, who's actually good. I'm starting to get a feel for it in the scene. And, I'm aware of who's a rookie and an amateur, and I kind of have them grouped together. Rookies are pretty good. I know who they are. Amateurs are really good. Like, they're going to kick my ass. And experts are like, what's the difference between an expert and pro? That dude is an animal. Okay. And at the time, it was novice. It was rookie, novice, pro. That was the rankings. And I wanted to be pro from that moment. The moment I knew what they were, I wanted it. And so now I'm aware of it. So now here's the rookies in my scene were like Curtis and Derek Selsvold, Ross Cortez, that group from like Gators to Lamplighter. The amateurs were Tim Walters,
Gary Edgeworth.
No, he was an expert. Him and Scotty were novices. Weidman had already gotten like second with Spear and was a bad motherfucker already.
Yeah.
Oops, yeah. But hey. Sorry.
Grant, I gotta ask you this question because I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but it kind of I think it dovetails with what you're talking about right now, especially from your perspective playing in the 90s. And I also am asking you this because you're one of the few people who, when gave this opinion on the Inside Foos TV Facebook page also had some information to back it up with. So this is why I'm curious, or an opinion to back it up with. But you listed your top 10 greatest players in history, and you put at number 1 Mike Bowers. Now, I was curious about that because I know what your rationale was, because he'd won in many different decades. But it sounds to me like there's also some maybe some bias because he was one of your guys, and that's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just curious if you could speak to that, because you have Fred and Cindy tied at 5th. So it's just you're here. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So I'm absolutely biased, 100%.
That's awesome.
Because Mike Bowers, outside of, I would say, in my top 5 of my humanistic life, he is absolutely one of my mentors. So yeah, I am biased. He will be the number 1 for me. That's just how it is.
That's great. I mean, that's great that you great that you know that, though, especially through the scope of the career that you had when you were playing during that time frame in the 90s up in the early 2000s. And just my last question for you is that have you been following the game since, like when you got out of it, like the last decade, what are your thoughts on that?
So I follow the game, and I don't really follow the like scores and the results, but I'll check in on the talk and kind of see what's going on. But I mean, like, as far as the top 10 thing, I just gave 1 or 2 the rationale that I felt would be the easiest to put out into the air. There's many more that I could go into. I mean, one of my big ones for Mike is Mike Bowers, not just in Foos, just in general. He's one of the most effective coaches, and he has touched and affected more people that I'm aware of than anybody else. And in Foos too. And I did a post, said something about a post where, there's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, but that came from somewhere. They didn't start it. The start is usually I like to call it the root. And Bowers is a root, and then there's not usually one. There's usually more than one, because they start from different places, but they always end up the same. And Bowers is a root. And it's like, there's no line of foosball at this point on the planet that doesn't have an influence of Mike Bowers. Okay, that's pretty powerful. And he has victories in every genre on multiple tables. There's no more argument in my eyes. That's outside of him being one of my best friends that I've ever had, and a mentor, and just somebody that I think is super cool.
Hey man, we're getting to the tail end here, dude. I feel like we need to do another one of these. I feel like we need more time. But I got to ask you, how far are you from Pompano Beach, Florida? Do you know? Because
about 4 hours.
Good, perfect. I'll just take a train or whatever. February 18th. We're gonna have.
So
I also want you to read a rule on that. I want you to read a rule. I want you to read a rule book.
Just take an airboat down there.
A couple things. Let me tell you what's cool. I need you to read a rule book, because we're going to have you be an honorary referee. Okay, so that's the thing. But here's another thing: we're going to put you in the booth. It's me, Adam, Tony Spritterman, Jim, and I'm going to take a sit back. I'm going to get down on the floor.
Billing there. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Did I say me? I think I said me first and fourth. Me, Adam, Tony, me, you, Tom remotely, and Jim are all going to be hanging on the booth.
Somewhere. Go, Jim.
Dude, you got to come hang out, dude. And we're gonna party.
How soon they forget?
We're gonna party. Come on, party, dude. Let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah.
No question.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
It's really interesting to hear. Really, talk about. We're going back in like early '90s. You're talking about grassroots here of Denver, of the front range foosball, and how things went on from there, right? And so it's fascinating stuff. And like Mark says, we're a little short on time. We just got about a minute and a half left, but we'd love to have you back again in the future. And yeah, come on down to Pompano Beach, February 18th through 20th. We'll be there. Hang out with us. Have a cold one with us.
That sounds terrific. I would love to be on again. That would be amazing. To be honest, I started when I was listening just to the interview beforehand. I heard the Thunderdome, and then I heard it was in Pompano Beach, and I was listening to Kelly talk about it in the interview and how he's behind it. The Swiss system, I'm super keen on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first thought was,
You want to come back?
Yeah, how can I go over to Pompano Beach? Just to check it out. Yeah, for me, it's about the time and to get over there. But I really want to try to do it. I'm gonna see what I can do to try and make that happen.
Take it over, brother. Take it over.
First eight drinks are on Mark.
Always.
Yes.
Always.
Thanks, Grant. Again, I appreciate you joining us tonight. And really, really great to kind of reflect back on what was a killer era in the world of foosball, and you were right there in the middle of it. So thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, Grant,
you're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Grant, you're a great storyteller. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us on FoosTalk Live. And FoosTalk Live, of course, has just revealed some very interesting information tonight. Pass along the word to those who weren't tuned in and download the episode later on Podbean. But guys, I got to say, this has been an extraordinary moment in FoosTalk Live history. The news is out. We're going to the World Cup.
Yeah,
simple.
Nice.
And that's what makes this show great is we are able to break news stories while also kind of getting inside the head of the individuals who help formulate the sport throughout the years and get the personal side, as Adam likes to say. And so we were kind of on both of those fronts tonight. Even squeezed Donald Wilson, the president of the USTSO, in as well. So quite an eventful evening.
And much more to talk about next week. We'll all be back on FoosTalk Live. Thank you for tuning in. And please stay safe and healthy. On FoosTalk Live, we'll be back next week.
FoosTalk Live is a product of InsideFoos, all rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com, Protectoflex, Rodlock, 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, the USTSO, and Foosball Clubs USA. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foosing.